Of course, the Archbishop was right. The Bible teaches that prayer is the most powerful transformational force in the lives of individuals, churches, and even nations. Whenever and wherever God's people truly rediscover their purpose, their peculiarity, their power, they do so through prayer. And the result of any such renewal, if it truly is a renewal of the Spirit, is first that the church is revived, and then that the prevailing culture is rewired for the glory of God. There isn't a single example of a transformational Christian renewal that did not begin in prayer. Church attendance may be declining throughout much of the Western world, but the proportion of the population that prays has remained consistently high. 75 to 97% of Americans claim to do so at least once a week. 50% pray daily. And in Britain, a government survey of beliefs discovered that a quarter of those who describe themselves as non-religious still take part in some spiritual activity each month. Typically, that's prayer. We've often been surprised at the number of non-Christians who don't want to be preached at, yet they still want to be prayed for. Prayer, it seems, is bigger than the church. A wide open space for missional connection with a post-Christian culture that remains surprisingly spiritually open. But this isn't a new phenomenon. Christ's first apostles prioritized prayer before all other leadership tasks in spite of the demands of spectacular church growth. They understood that their calling as the renewed people of God was to be a house of prayer for all nations, and this is a theme that we're going to explore throughout the book. Christians today who disagree about so many important things tend to agree about the absolute priority of Christ's call to be a people dedicated wholeheartedly to prayer. It was in the 4th century that John Chrysostom wrote an effusive hymn acknowledging prayer to be the root, the foundation, the mother of 1,000 blessings. The potency of prayer, he wrote, hath subdued the strength of fire. It hath bridled the rage of lions, extinguished wars, appeased the elements, expelled demons, burst the chains of death, rescued cities from destruction, stayed the sun in its course, and arrested the progress of the thunderbolt. It's tempting to downgrade Chrysostom's rhetoric. Our own experiences of prayer probably fall a little short of extinguishing wars and arresting thunderbolts. Yet every one of his examples has actually been drawn directly from the Bible. It was Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego who subdued the strength of fire. It was Daniel who bridled the rage of lions. It was Moses, Joshua, Jehoshaphat, Hezekiah who harnessed prayer to extinguish wars, and so on. Of course, prayer alone won't get the job done. There is a gritty pragmatism to most of the great biblical prayer warriors. Daniel prayed diligently 3 times every day, but he also made astute political choices. Moses raised his hands in protracted intercession against the Amalekite army, but all the while Joshua was wielding his sword in the valley below. The great abolitionist William Wilberforce urged against neglecting God in the secret place of prayer, but in fact he spent most of his life writing letters, making speeches in the Houses of Parliament, and building a consensus against slavery. There's a lovely old Russian proverb: pray to God, but continue to row for the shore. Prayer must outwork itself in action, and so this book is about more than prayer and presence. It is also about mission and justice. It's about the saying of prayers, for sure, but also it's about the becoming of prayers in 1,000 very practical ways. Ever since that first prayer room in Chichester went viral, we've been Forrest Gumping our way around the world, praying through 9/11 and the financial crash, the war on terror, presidential elections, the rise of Taylor Swift. And having never intended to start a movement, we don't feel particularly responsible to maintain it. To this day, we don't advertise, we don't try to persuade anyone to start prayer rooms or boiler rooms. People just seem to want to do these things, and so we try to help them. We have become a little more organised over the years and a little more efficient, but there still isn't really any kind of plan for marketing or global domination. For more than 15 years, we have lived in a fairly constant state of bewilderment at the places God takes us and the surprising new things that the movement becomes. I'm aware, therefore, as I sit down to write this book, that my part of the 24/7 story is merely one perspective. It's just a fraction of the whole. Just last night, I was told by a publisher that the impetus to start her